I'm at Ethernet Expo Americas 2012. I'm here with Margaret Chiosi from AT&T. So Margaret, SDN is just about the hottest topic in telecom right now, but what do carriers need to be doing right at this minute to prepare for the transition to SDN?
Well, SDN, there's a lot of buzz and market hype related to it, but carriers today, they just really have to figure out what do they want to do. The whole concept of SDN is to accelerate the market of stuff. So now the issue is the carriers have to decide, do they need to accelerate revenue generation? Do they need to accelerate, optimization of the network and so forth? And so if they can figure that out, then they have to step back and say, okay, does SDN help them there? And the answer might be no. So even though there's a lot of hype that SDN can solve all evils, it really has very specific applications, and it also depends on your environment.
So what you say is the biggest individual challenge in this process?
Well, so it's the what, the when, the how to implement it. I mean, in AT&T, we're very lucky because we've grown up doing SDN starting from voice. So we're used to trying to figure out what technology makes sense where. And so that's really the biggest challenge. Because if you guess wrong, it's a lot of development effort and could be wasted energy, money, time, and so forth. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is where does it make sense?
So Margaret, you were one of the founders of the new Network Virtualization Functions group. What role is that group going to play in this whole SDN process?
So it's like I said in my talk, virtualization is probably the main new thing that we got out of SDN. In fact, that got AT&T's attention to the point that we were willing to start this forum with the other carriers. The whole purpose of virtualization is to reduce costs. That's why you want to go on COTS hardware, to speed up the acceleration of introducing new applications, again, whether it's revenue generating or cost reduction. And the other is to do it in a concerted effort with a large group. Right now you have a lot of different carriers poking at this, working with the vendors, trying to prod the vendors into this area, and we felt if we joined forces together and if we came up with a common set of requirements in the virtualization market, that it would help then incent the vendors to actually build something, because at least if we're consistent, then they will be able to build something that they know they have a bigger market for. So it's really a law of numbers of carriers that really want this, and so the goal is to have a consistent set of requirements and a consistent set of use cases that we will all be migrating toward, and then hopefully then the market will build products quicker because they know there's a market.
Do today's Ethernet services have the elasticity that's required to meet the on-demand needs of cloud services?
Definitely. A lot of carriers can do it today, but it's based on their own proprietary interface. Right. So the MEF is working on the Northbound API interface to make it standard for Ethernet. And so at least then you can do it from a standard point of view. So currently, like I said before, the problem with proprietary is then everyone has to negotiate with all the different vendors and then all the different customers, and so it's slow. It's slow. So once we standardize, and hopefully by the end of 2013, the MEF will have a letter ballot on the Northbound interface. Once that's standardized, then hopefully that'll accelerate the proliferation of this.
Now, would it be true to say that QoS is becoming a real differentiator for carriers these days?
Oh, absolutely. The issue with we see it ourselves. AT&T has a broad, deep QoS services. In fact, we have 6 classes of services versus a lot of our competitors only have 3. And we do see a need for it. So it's just a matter of people getting comfortable with it and customers trying to understand it. But definitely, it's a differentiator once they really understand their different applications.
Well, what does that mean for the relationship between the carriers and their vendor suppliers? I mean, does this make a difference between the relationship between the CTO office and the vendors?
Well, because of AT&T's background, most of us were in the Bell Labs. And back that time, we ended up designing products that we used for ourselves. So from an AT&T perspective, the relationship hasn't changed. We've always been intimately involved with the CTO offices, directing, redirecting, encouraging them to go to a certain direction. But yes, the other service providers, that they don't have that type of R&D type of background, the relationship does need to change, because QoS is not a trivial thing to implement. You can do it wrong and poorly. And so yeah, you need a deeper relationship with the CTO office.
So XO Communications recently launched a 100G national network with the services to go with it. Has that had a knock-on impact on the transport services market in the US? Well,
AT&T years ago, I actually owned the optical organization for a while, parts of it. It's probably about, we actually have a lot of 40G out there, about over 500,000 miles of wavelengths equivalents of 40G. So we actually had bandwidth problems on 10G years ago. So now there's definitely a set of smaller carriers that are having problems with 10G. They need to go higher. And now that 100G is coming out, why would you go do 40G? You might as well go to 100G. So we're not running out of bandwidth per se. We're okay at 40G, but obviously we're working on the 100G. In fact, you know, right now. So we actually have the luxury to get the 100G that we want versus maybe some of the preliminary 100G that's out there. So we're you know, the 100G we look for is like lower cost from power and so forth, and different types of availability and so forth. So we are actually sort of waiting for the next generation, or actually we're influencing, I should say, the vendors in the next generation, versus you definitely have suppliers out there that they've run out of gas on 10G, so they have to go with the first generation.
And finally, Margaret, at this point in an interview, I usually like to ask, what's your favorite movie? But I know you're not so keen on movies, so what's your favorite TV series of all time?
So the one show that I like is Modern Family. I actually like the character Gloria, because she's just funny. She just says things that are not correct, and it's just, you get the gist and it just comes out hilarious. So.
Excellent. So inappropriate quotes is what you look for. Excellent. Yes, well, light reading can certainly help in that respect. So Margaret Chiosi, thank you very much.
Thank you.